So we'll see. How's that going to work?
One more time. That means everybody's got enough voting. All right.
For now, we'll leave it like that. See, it's not going to be able to see people in the corner there, but
I guess it needs to go on Jesus. Where's Jesus?
I'm gonna move it over here to this other window because it'll be less. It'll be in the way, less in the way there.
Jesus, you put your road back on. If you don't want to, you don't have to. All right. I'm setting the timer. We're gonna see how long it goes. Is that Chris? I'm gonna give it a process. If we make it through this in 15 minutes, I'm making stuff up. I'm gonna lay the bread here. I'm sleeping. Y'all tell me when you're ready to start. We're professional. I think when you serve eggs in here, about all the kids have treats with the that way you all stay. All right. So it says when they have some of them, I'm ready. Y'all ready?
Sherry, where does this thing go that Matt's
Well,
house?
you go ahead, you're going to go ahead and come out there.
Okay, it goes in behind the chair, on that stool. There's a stool that sits on that stool, and that other thing sits on top of it.
No, I'm saying that might.
Yeah. You go back, after you go ahead and get to the priest, you go backstage and you use I think it says when all the disciples observed and fled, right? Yeah, there's a conference. Still. That's what you need to go by and take out that property. Come back on stage, you'll get that property. All right.
All right, y'all ready? Y'all tell me when to start.
Are you ready? All right, enter into my heart. Okay.
Because we're gonna go straight through. We need,
Clear like slides. Yeah, I don't know if maybe it's not, but it's all right. I was just trying to figure out where it's from.
we need to pass a mic to somebody else. Guys that have mics, Henry, Max, William, turn it off and hand it to the next person, and the next person turn it on when they're ready to use it.
Make sure the mute is on the.
Or mute.
It's off.
Yeah. Okay, y'all ready? We're not stopping. So what it is. All right. I got my stopwatch. We're gonna see really how long this goes. On your mark, get set. The Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Matthew. When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples,
You know, after 2 days, Passover is coming, the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified.
Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, who is called Caiaphas, and they conspired to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said,
Not during the festival, but it will be a right.
now, while Jesus was at Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment, and she poured it on his head as he sat at the table. But when the disciples saw it, they were angry and said, but Jesus, aware of this, said to them,
I'm in trouble with the woman. She has performed a good service for me, for you will always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. According to this ointment of my body, she has prepared me for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her.
Then one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said,
What will you give me if I betray him to you?
they paid him 30 pieces of silver, and from that moment he began to look for an opportunity to betray him. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying,
Where do you want us to make the preparations for you to eat the Passover?
he said,
Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, Teacher says, my time is near. Keep the Passover at your house, my disciple.
So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, he took his place with the 12, and while they were eating, he said,
Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me.
and they became greatly distressed and began to say to him one after another.
Surely not I, Lord.
He answered,
The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to the one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born.
Judas, who betrayed him, said,
Surely not I, Rabbi.
Jesus replied.
You have said so.
While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it, gave it to the disciples, and said,
Hey, eat. This is my body.
then he took a cup, and after giving thanks,
Yeah.
then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying,
Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood, which is poured out for many for forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never drink of this fruit or wine until the day when I drink it with you in my Father's kingdom.
When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. You'll have a little bit of time, so y'all can move, Kel is singing. We're all singing. The audience isn't watching you because they're reading the words of the song you're singing. Then Jesus said to them,
You will all become deserters because of me this night. Word is written, I was like a shepherd and sheep and flock of his cattle. But after I'm raised up, I will go ahead of you to Galilee.
Peter said to him, Peter said to him,
Make sure you match it up. So they'll have to go ahead and they'll say, bring the slave away. Or do it from the top.
Peter said to him,
You all became deserters of you. I will never desert you.
Jesus said to him,
Truly I tell you, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times.
Peter said to him,
Even though I must die with you, I will never deny you.
and so said all the disciples. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples,
Sit here while I go over there and pray.
He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them,
I'm deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me.
and going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed,
My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet, not what I want, but what you want.
Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter,
So you cannot stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, the flesh is weak.
Again, he went away for the second time and prayed,
My Father, if this cannot pass from me, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, then your will be done.
Again, he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the 3rd time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them,
Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour is at hand. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand.
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived with him. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Oh, sorry, I read that. After you told me not to, I'm going to read it again. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests, the elder. I can't read what I read. Sorry. While he was speaking, Jesus.
So they're gonna sneak out. All right, and then,
They should have snuck off when we went to the garden.
yeah, that's okay. So then, I guess, since Lance started back here, do we just want them to go ahead and come up with Lance off the ramp? That would be better, than that way you guys will not be standing in there, and y'all can just stand it. Okay. They can come up. So they're gonna be running along these people here. All right.
Yeah, let me get him on
All
the
right, we'll
stage.
get rid of that, and y'all can come on up to the stage. Because we're not gonna use that
I'm
anymore.
giving this.
Sword, exit, what?
Am I going from this direction?
Okay, that's what I'm asking, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and bring, I think you just need to come out of there, because it's gonna be easier than you go ahead and go from the ramp, does that make sense? With Lance, since he's already out here, he's got to turn his down around, he's got to do the sword, instead of him coming back down here, he's around, you see that, he's mad, all right, okay, let's go ahead, let's do that. All right, so we got a lot of going right here, So Jesus, you're gonna have to go over a little bit further. Judas, you're gonna have to go kind of in the center, because y'all all crowd there, and Lance is crowded behind. All right, so then you go ahead and you can come down here, Lance, you'll be with the crowd. All right, there we go. Now, got everybody in.
I wrote some things on here, Kim, and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say.
I don't need-
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. I'll just read that just the way it is. Okay. Now the betrayer had given them a sign saying,
The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him.
at once he came up to Jesus and said,
Greetings, Rabbi.
and Judas kissed him. Jesus said to him,
Friend, do what you're here to do.
then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly, one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him,
Put your sword back into its place. For all who take the sword will perish by the sword. You think that I cannot appeal to my Father? And you will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how will the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen in this way?
At that hour, Jesus said to the crowds,
Will you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me, as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled.
Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. And now Kale's going to do something. Then those who arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance. As far as the courtyard of the high priest, and going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priest and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last, two came forward and said, the high priest stood up and said,
Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?
but Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him,
I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God.
Jesus said to him,
You have said so. But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, and coming on the clouds of heaven.
Then the high priest tore his clothes and said,
He has blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?
They answered. Then they spat in his face and struck him, and some slapped him, saying, Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said,
You were also with Jesus the Galilean.
but he denied it before all of them, saying, No, you say, I did not know what you're talking about. When he went out to the court, the servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders,
This man was with Jesus of Nazareth.
again, he denied it with an oath. After a while the bystanders came up and said to Peter,
Certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you.
then he began to curse, and he swore an oath. At that moment, the cop, I should wait it, sorry.
Wait just a moment, she's gonna do it, yeah, just pause it. All right, go ahead. Oh, I
At that moment, the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. and he went out and wept bitterly. When Jesus came, the chief priests of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he repented and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. He said,
I have sinned by betraying innocent blood.
but they said,
What is that to us? See to it yourself.
throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed, and he went and hanged himself. But the chief priest, taking the pieces of silver, said,
It is not lawful to put them into the treasury, since they are blood money.
after conferring together, they used them to buy the potter's field as a place to bury foreigners. For this reason, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the